What's good, everybody? It's Chris Crazy House here with some more Chris Crazy commentary. And today I want to talk a little bit about the issues that a lot of fans have been having with the animation or the special effects that they see on some of Marvel's programming, mainly the new She-Hulk series, because a lot of people have watched it and have been saying that the animation and the special effects are not as good, the compositing is not as good, and the lip sync is way off. So that's what we're going to be talking about, and just basically how something like this happens, because it almost seems like the quality of the special effects in a lot of Marvel movies has degraded. Okay, and I wanted to explain this to the people out there that watch this, since I do have experience in this field, and I can explain to you why these sorts of things happen. So if you like my types of commentary, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, make sure you like this video, and make sure you share it with anyone that would appreciate hearing this type of commentary. So starting off the bat, I have not watched the full She-Hulk TV show on Disney Plus. Like, I've seen certain scenes from it, but I have not sat and watched the series. It's just I'm not interested in watching it. I'll just say that, because it doesn't seem like something that would hold my interest or anything that I would even appreciate. Okay, I liked She-Hulk when she was a member of the Avengers back in the 80s and early 90s, and that's about as much as I can say that I enjoyed the character. Now, I realize there are people out there who enjoy the series, who love it, who think it's great. That's perfectly okay. Okay, just because I don't like something means that, you know, you have to stop liking it. Likewise, if you don't like it, that doesn't mean you need to start liking it either. Don't feel bad if you don't like it. All right. But as far as the quality of the animation in the show, a lot of people have been complaining about it and wondering how could this happen when you have a studio like Marvel that produced all these other movies. They produced such a great CG character with Thanos. Like, how do you go from Thanos and, you know, the Incredible Hulk in the first Avengers movie and Age of Ultron and Ultron himself, how do you go from that to what they see in She-Hulk? And I'm going to explain to you what's going on there. Okay, so first and foremost, what a lot of people don't seem to understand is that when they do special effects and animations for these films, yes, this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe production. Yes, this is under the umbrella of Disney, but that does not mean that Disney or Marvel is actually working on the special effects. Do you understand that? They hire out and contract when it comes to doing stuff like that. So they might get a smaller studio out there to do the animation or the special effects. And this is very common. There's nothing new. They do this for TV shows all through Hollywood. They do this for films all through Hollywood. That's why, you know, a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They're waiting for the end credit scene for these Marvel movies. Like, I remember thinking, like, okay, because Marvel has end credit scenes, people will actually sit there and pay attention to the credits and start giving the animators and visual effects artists their due, but they're not paying any attention. They're messing on their phone, talking to each other or whatever until the end credit scene shows up. But you know, if you stay behind and watch the credits, you'll see the different effects houses that work on these films. Okay, and when these effects houses are trying to get these contracts, what's starting to happen is, because, you know, Marvel, the MCU / Disney is kind of like the biggest thing going right now. So a lot of people want to get that work. A lot of effects houses want to get that work just so they can have that on their resume to say, hey, I worked on Falcon and Winter Soldier, I worked on She-Hulk, I worked on one of these Marvel shows, and that's on our resume at this studio. So you can always come here and get quality work, and maybe even Marvel and DC will come back to them again, and want to do more stuff with that studio. But to get those contracts, they're underbidding other studios, and I think that's really bad for the studio to do, and that's also a disservice of that to the actual animators that work there. If you are underbidding something like that, it's going to cause problems later on. All right, don't do that. As someone who actually has worked as a contractor, do not do that. All right, when you underbid stuff, it's just going to cause stress and problems later on. The price is the price. So if it costs a certain amount of money to do a scene, if it costs a certain amount of money to do compositing, if it costs a certain amount of money to do animation or lip sync, keep charging that. Keep the prices up and keep them high. But a lot of these studios, they're trying to get the contract. They're low bidding and low balling. So of course Disney, Marvel's like, oh sure, if you're not going to charge us a lot of money, of course we're going to get you guys. And so they'll contract the studio at a low price. The animators are not getting paid what they should be getting paid, and what's happening is these animators are getting overworked, they're getting rushed, and a lot of them not getting the overtime they deserve, and a lot of them are understaffed because these studios, they can't afford to retain a lot of workers there, so they'll have like maybe 4 or 5 animators sitting there working, and they have to do everything. Not only do they have to do everything for this one show, they have other contracts coming through there that these 5 animators have to work on. So they gotta like jump from one project to the other until it gets done or gets completed. And then after all that, you'll have like the directors and the producers over at Marvel coming in and saying, hey, can you change this? Can you change the hair on She-Hulk? Can you make sure that when she twerks right here, that her booty jiggles a little bit more? Can you make sure her lips and mouth opens extra wide when she's eating something or kissing on some guy or whatever, right? So doing that, the studio heads will say, oh sure, we can do that. And then they run into the room where the animators are and say, hey guys, we need you guys to fix this scene, change this, change this, change this, change this. The animators, like I said, a lot of them are not getting paid their overtime, and a lot of them are not being properly compensated to do that extra work. Okay, so they'll have to stay overnight or something like that, or put off another project, or put off their personal life. You see what I'm saying? They can't spend time with their family, their girlfriend or wife, or they can't even start a family because they're spending all their time at the studio working hard and sweating over the new She-Hulk show. So a lot of times they're just pushing this stuff out and pushing it out, and they don't have a lot of time to begin with to even get it done. So they gotta just get as much of it done and just put it out there. And if it sinks in quality or is not as good, then that's just the way it is. And I know the producers of this show and the writers have tried to get by with the low quality of this show by saying, oh, it's quote unquote supposed to be a comedy, jokey joke, break the fourth wall type thing, right? So that means it means it can have bad quality, I guess. Now, if you watch the Deadpool movies, those are high quality films, even though he breaks the fourth wall. There's lots of jokes and it's just ridiculous. Even if you look at some of the earlier Marvel movies where they had jokes in it, or like the first Avengers movie or Avengers Age of Ultron, there were jokes in it. It was funny, but the animation was high quality. The Hulk versus Iron Man and the Hulkbuster armor and the opening scene where the Avengers are fighting Hydra are two of my favorite MCU scenes, and those were well done. Also, the very first in the first Avengers movie, the first transformation of the Hulk, where he's chasing the Black Widow and then has to fight Thor. Those scenes look a lot better than the modern She-Hulk, and those were done years ago. See what I'm saying? That was done like a decade ago, and it loses quality because the animators don't have the time or the right pay to do the best work that they can. There are a lot, like I said, a lot of them are rushed, or they're working on several other shows at the same time. And I feel bad for a lot of those animators and those workers out there, because it's stressful work, and that's not why we got into doing art and animation. We weren't doing it to be stressed out, drinking Red Bulls and coffee 24/7 just to stay awake. Excuse me, just to finish the new scene for some crappy show, right? That was not our goal in life when we went to art school, but that's where a lot of animators end up when they go out there to Hollywood and work for one of these effects houses, all right? So hopefully that explains it to you folks, and you guys get it and understand why the quality sinks on these shows and why the She-Hulk might not look as good as she probably should. And you folks can let me know if you actually watched this whole show, if you sat through it. God bless you. But let me know what you thought of the She-Hulk show, and let me know what you think about the sinking quality of the MCU and the animation in these MCU films. Let me just preface, let me end it by saying this. I'm not degrading or talking bad about the actual animators or compositors or whoever worked on the show. I'm talking about the head people who are at the head from Marvel and DC, and maybe some of the heads of these studios who lowball just to get the contract, and then they treat their animators like trash. That's who I'm talking about. The animators working on this, I do not blame you guys or girls at all. You're just trying to feed yourself, trying to live your dream of being an artist and an animator, and it's not going the way you wanted it to. So you folks let me know how you feel about it in the comments, and I very much like to hear from you on this subject. Anyway, Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.